You know, with all the good things that this season has brought, the death that happens in this season finale of Chucky, season two, chef's kiss. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Delayed. This whole week is delayed with travel, holidays, funerals, weddings. There's been a lot happening this week, so I am going to. There's going to be something every day, but I'm going to be catching up this week. I'm starting off with the season finale of Chucky, which, boy, I wish I could have watched this and reported on this in real time because this is a fun time. I watched this a few days ago, and I can't stop thinking about that death, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about. But let's start from the beginning. The season finale of Chucky, season two, is called Chucky Actually, which is a play on Love Actually, because we've become a holiday movie this time around. We skip ahead to the holiday season with the kids, but before we do, we get a flashback of what happened at the end of the last episode, when Chucky's getting shot to death. My suspicions were correct. Chucky did transfer himself into Dr. Mixter, and so we see a shot of the whole gang after they shoot Chucky, or what they believe to be Chucky, and seeing, oh, it's his life flashing before his eyes. And you get to see that Dr. Mixter and Charles Lee Ray have had a relationship that has existed from when he was first a little boy to a teenager to a grown man to being a Chucky doll. And we also see that she's sort of had her fingerprints in everything that even happened in season one, with giving Chucky the idea that, hey, to get these kids to kill, because that's the only way you can transfer into their body, to get these kids to kill, you need to traumatize them. And that's when you start seeing Chucky. He uses that as saying, hey, if I kill their parents, kill their uncle, kill their anybody, their guardian, somebody that they love, that will be the trauma that sort of triggers them to become a killer. And it didn't work until we finally get to Lexi's boyfriend, Jake's cousin. But that doesn't mean anything because Chucky will sacrifice anybody if it helps him get what he wants. And so in that last moment, while the stabbing of the eye is happening with Glinda, Chucky is doing the Dumbala spell and switching from Chucky doll to Dr. Mixter. So Dr. Mixter is the one who gets the maniacal laugh, and then we see Dr. Mixter because I don't know why Dr. Mixter will lie. It's one of those things that's sort of a plot hole. She just straight up lying to the kids saying this is the last good guy doll, but then she clearly has one in her safe at home. And so, retcon all of that, we go right back. She goes to the safe, opens it up, and she slash Charles Lee Ray puts himself back into the Chucky doll, and then we're off to the races. He's now a Chucky doll again. Speed ahead to the kids being pretty well adjusted, as well as they can be after everyone they know has died. But Lexi's in rehab, and it's sort of her last day in rehab before she is sent home. And Jake's there to sort of be there for her and help her get through it. And she's sort of having a come to Jesus moment, and she's saying, "Hey, I put all this on my mom. Maybe it's not, but she has a line in there that's pretty funny. She says that it's good thing that, or some sort of fact that it's good that I only became on drugs and I didn't become a hooker." So Lexi and Jake ride back home to Lexi's house, where Michelle, Lexi's mom, and her sister are there, and they are. She has not let her mom know that Jake's going to be staying with them for the holidays, and Jake just finds out as he's entering the door. He's like, "Wait a minute, what are we doing?" But she breaks it on to her, and she takes it pretty well because she happens to be live streaming on FaceTime or Instagram, and so all her followers, she doesn't want to come off as a bitch in front of her followers, so she's like, "Yeah, of course she can stay." But then another surprise comes down because Devin is there, and Devin is also going to be staying. So she's just keeping all the orphans, as she says. She's keeping two orphans. And Lexi says, "This is sort of my gift to both of you. Jake, for Jake, you're his gift, and so vice versa for Devin." And Devin has a small gift for Jake, and Jake freaks out a little bit. And it's kind of like, "Oh, I gotta go get you a gift. I got one. I got the perfect gift for you." And he runs off, and they don't really get to have a moment to spend together. It becomes awkward and odd again, but it feels like in that moment, which we learn a little bit later, that Jake feels he has to match tit for tat and get him something because of the life that he thought Devin still lived, but has not really. It's clear these two haven't had a conversation with each other in quite some time. I'll skip ahead a bit because these scenes sort of bleed together, but what he brings back to them is this huge podcasting bundle. And he's like, he's so happy to give it to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, you remember you can get back into your show, you love your show." And Devin's like, do that anymore, and podcasting is dead, which is news to me. Damn it, no. But he just doesn't have the desire to do that anymore, and he kind of is ho hum about the gift. And Jake is like feeling a little bad. And Dev's like, oh, no, it's a great gift. And there's more animosity and more problems that occurred between the two of them, just showing that they have not spoken. So Jake, as much as he is in love with the thought of Devin, they haven't done anything in the last year to actually make that connection and continue their bond or grow into who they are now as one. We see via newscast that Dr. Mixter is dead. It's just a newscast in the background. So clearly Chucky switched out, and that corpse, there was no soul to go back into Dr. Mixter because the actual Dr. Mixter is dead, so the body is now just deceased. So Glinda is visiting Glenn, and Glenn doesn't have much time to live. There's only a few days left for them to live. So Glinda has come up with the idea, and they have thought that, hey, this may seem weird, Mom, but can you put us back in the original doll, like our Glenn doll? And Tiffany and Jennifer in Jennifer's body is kind of like, yeah, that was the whole reason why I kept it. So yes, I can easily do that for you. And so they hatch this plan to get their mom there, even though Jennifer is wanted, but to get their mom there and to come up with this plan so that they can get the doll back in there, cast the spell there, and then get the doll back out. So Tiffany Jennifer brings the Glen doll in a suitcase and brings it in, and then performs a spell. They burn up the dock, the guard that's there, and then she escapes with Glenn and Glinda now in that, because the only way that Glenn is going to survive is if they transfer and kind of merge their souls again. So they're there, and then you get a shot of Glenn and Glinda. They're on the bed, both like Dr. Mixture's gone because there's no souls that have gone back into them to replace, which also would have been weird because they were born. It's a whole thing. But yes, so those two are gone. We don't see Glenn and Glinda anymore in that form. They're now the British Glendale again. Which now they go by the name of Gigi, which is Glenn and Glinda together. Gigi is the name that they're going by now. And then they're off to the races. They want to see the world. So they've never been one that sort of wants to be the killer, but they have some killer instincts in them because they kill when it's necessary for them. But Tiffany dials them up a little bit and gives them a little bit of makeup and sends their little one off to go gallivant around the world. And that's the end of the Glinda piece of this episode, although there's a line that comes back that a little later, just so that they are alive and well and out there in the world. While she's making them up, Tiffany does see on the news that Michelle at Lexi's house has a Belle doll. And that's the only way that's the only doll she can transfer into, because there's no Tiffany dolls. So she's like, the only doll I can transfer into is that Belle doll. So let's go ahead. I found my new home. I'm gonna go find that. So that's her plan. We basically now have everybody kind of converging on Lexi's, Michelle, and Caroline's house. There's another awkward family moment, a dinner moment. Lexi, Caroline, Michelle, Devin, and Jake are all there eating dinner. Jake's being passive aggressive, saying, "Hey, if you don't like a gift, you can turn it back for cash." He's being really kind of rude, sort of a dick about it. And they start having a moment, a pretty big tiff there, a pretty big fight that doesn't seem to get resolved. And then Lexi takes her time and says, "Hey, Mom, I apologize. As much as I call you this, and that, a lot of that, I'm the same with that. And so I want to apologize for getting yelled." And it's sort of a cool, heartfelt moment between the two of them. That's sort of a kumbaya moment. And Caroline kind of says, "You two should kind of make up too." And then they start eating. It's cool because you're like, oh, they made up, and Lexi and her mom are on good terms. That means someone has to die. The next sequence that we see is that Lexi's in bed with the two boys at the floor in a sleeping bag, which I don't know how other parents work. This is just the one thing that I kind of was like, wait, really? Michelle's mom is very aware that Devin and Jake are a couple. I don't know if you would, in your room, in your daughter's room, have the two of them sleeping together, like sleeping in the same room. That just seems like, as a parent, I don't know. I don't have any kids, but I feel like that probably would be a no-go. So I was like, but Michelle also is not the very best parent either, so maybe that's a piece of it. But they're making up. having a kiss, and Lexi's like, oh, that's cute, no, let's go to sleep. And so we think the night is going to end merrily, and then Chucky shows up to the place, and all hell breaks loose. Chucky shows up, comes down the chimney, starts eating some cookies, drinking some milk, doing a little reading the list, because we hear Caroline's overlay of reading the list to Santa, and then Chucky sort of comes in underneath it. But then that sort of coincides at the same time where Tiffany is showing up, and she's looking for the bell dial, but the bell dial's not where it was on the IG cam. So she's like, crap, now I have to go in the house and kind of go find this. So Tiffany goes in and is looking around, trying to find secretly and quietly where this bell dial is. But the problem is, she's in Jennifer's body and she's wearing heels, so she's gonna clunk clunk and make noise all around. So Michelle comes down and says, like, hey, is somebody there? And then in that, she's like, wait a minute, aren't you Jennifer Tilly? What are you? And Jennifer, they showed in the post, that's why they showed it in the earlier, the scene of what happened before. They hadn't met before, so there is some type of connection there. And then Michelle's like, wait, aren't you wanted for murder? And she's like, oh, that's just a big misunderstanding, all of this. And she's trying to play it along. And then all of a sudden, in the corner of her eye, Jennifer sees Chucky. And my God, that might be one of the most amazing kills I've ever seen in any of these Chucky shows or horror or movies. Period. He gets a running start on this cool, quiet chainsaw. Gets a running, jumping start to jump off the stair banister. He gets some hang time like Kobe and Jordan, and he brings the chainsaw dead smack in the middle of Michelle, and just starts sawing her in half while she's screaming, and you can just see the blood splashing all over the place. And because he's only that big, he's just like working his way down her body. It's glorious. It is a masterful kill. It is nuts. Even Chucky says, where have you been all my life? It's a fun, scary cry, and now all the kids are orphans, all of them, including Lexi. And so at that moment, Chucky and Tiffany start having a combo, going back and forth. And he's like, no, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to murder all these kids. All of them. Maybe not Caroline, because there's some potential there, but the other three, I'm killing. Which is a line that's important, because Caroline has always, in the first season, has always seemed like there was something off and sort of being groomed by Chucky. That hasn't waned or left anymore at all. And now it makes sense why the bell dial that we've seen at the beginning will come into play and everything sort of comes together. Because there's always been an end game here. But while they're talking, Lexi comes down and just goes ham on Chucky. And it's like, you killed my mom, and just starts wailing on him. While that's happening, Tiffany finds that as her way to run up and go get the bell dial. So she goes up into Caroline's room. But it's a setup there. They're all home alone and ready for these two here. So Lexi is just shish kebabbing Chucky, cutting him into 4 different ways with a chainsaw, and he's gone. Blood is all over the place. It starts bubbling up, so you can kind of tell that the soul is gone as well. But yeah, that's a wrap on that Chucky. We then see Jennifer going after the bell dial, and when she's in there, the boys have sort of been laid a trap. She pulls back the covers, and then Devin and Jake just start stabbing her, and they stab her a couple of times, but they don't kill her, and she starts backing away with the bell dial and kind of making her way down the hallway. And the three, Lexi, Devin, and Jake, are all there to meet her. Jake's like, call the police, and Devin's like, no, maybe we should just go ahead and finish this. I'm like, let's end this right now. I'm like, do we really need to call the police? He's not wrong, just kill everybody. But then Caroline comes. And Caroline is crazy. She's always been sort of some proclivity to be sort of off and crazy, but she's now suffering from Stockholm Syndrome a little bit too. But she's been believed by Chucky that person, Michelle down there, was never her real mom, that she's not her real sister, and that her real mom would come to get her at some point in time. She believes that Jennifer / Tiffany is that person that's her real mom. So she's planning to leave with them, and if she doesn't, Caroline's going to cause mayhem to everybody. So they don't want to call the police, they don't want to kill Jennifer because Caroline is next to them, so they're now sort of in this kind of holding pattern, and Jennifer, Caroline, and the bell dial are able to escape. The kids are all coming to the moment that they're all orphans, and Lexi's like, I'm all alone. And the boys are like, no, you're not alone. We got you. It seems like whatever distance they had the first time that this all happened won't happen again. They will be sort of a tight knit group. The police comes in and they tell them the story that basically this was all Jennifer Tilly. She did all of this. She came in, killed my mom, killed, murdered this Chucky doll, and took my sister. And they're like, well, now we've called the authority. Like, you guys are all orphans. There's nobody, so we've tried to call next of kin. And at that point, that's when Miss Fairchild from the first season, the redhead teacher that has had some run-ins with Chucky, but really actually cared about. She was one of the few teachers that actually cared about these three. She shows up, and they kind of say, "Hey, do you remember Chucky?" And she's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Well, we got a plan," and so that's it. That's all we see with them. And so whatever plan they have set, we don't really find out in this season. This is all sort of leading to what I believe is to a season three. Hopefully, we get that call soon. We then get a coda sequence where we see Caroline sitting there reading a Voodoo for Dummies book, and we have Jennifer Tilly in her bound like outfit with the bell doll in the circle, ready to do the seance, the voodoo thing to transfer over. She receives a call while she's there. It looks like they're in New York. I believe that's where they are. She gets a call, and it's Nika. Can't forget about Nika. Nika gives her a call, and Nika is. Tiffany doesn't know this, but Nika's across the street with binoculars, and she can see them. And she's just having a convo with her. It's like, I still owe you. I'm planning to come for you, and I'm planning to kill you. You don't get to live. But it's in that she also tells him that she's spoken to Gigi, and they are fine. And Tiffany kind of gets hurt by that because they haven't called her. They've called Nika once a week. They haven't called her, and she feels sort of a way about that. So we'll tell them. Their mom says hi, and Nika's like, all right, cool, I'll do that. But then she also says like, hey, I like what you've done with your hair. And it's at that point that she realizes like, oh crap, she's around this corner. I need to get into this Tiffany dial ASAP. It is at that point she goes to try to do the Dumbala, and the spell doesn't seem to take. She does it, and it sounds like she does everything correctly, and she starts pushing the dial, and all of a sudden she realizes that she can't. We as an audience realizes she can't because the doll is already possessed by, you guessed it, Mr. Charles Lee. And so all of a sudden, Chucky comes from the bell doll and starts taking the black eye contacts they have off, and it's Chucky's eyes underneath, removes the face makeup and the hair, and we got a Chucky doll there. And then we see a shot of him trying to stab Jennifer Tilly, and we go to black. And then we have a little fun 12 Days of Christmas song that Chucky does. What's interesting, it's a cool little season finale, a lot of loose ends left there. Nika still has to try to kill Tiffany. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Jennifer Tilly or / Tiffany is dead. I think, yes, he's going to probably stab her. But the deal always has been sort of for Chucky to give her to Nika. And I think Nika's going to get that back. And I don't know what the kids have planned for Chucky. No clue. Because now it's a matter of they have to kill Chucky and separate Caroline. Because Lexi does have she has a dog in the fight. She wants to save her sister. While her sister doesn't believe that she is her sister, Lexi knows that they are, and she's going to want to save her before anything terrible happens to him. So now there's this game of like, I got to get my sister away from Chucky. We got to kill Chucky, and Chucky's going to do everything he possibly can to feed Jennifer to Nika. And then Gigi's out there somewhere living their best life. This was a fun season. I think I liked season 1 more because it felt more contained. I think the use of the multiple Chuckies and it got a little confusing a little bit, and Chucky Prime and the Colonel Chucky and the good guy Chucky and all the good Chucky and the Scout Chucky are the same, but buff Chucky. So there's just a lot of things that are happening. It's fun. I think Nadine has been my favorite character out of the 2 seasons, but I will say that I still enjoyed season 1, but this is still a fun series. If you're not into this, I don't know if you have a pulse. Like, this is fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. It has fun with itself. It's poking. And that death. Of all the other murders in this, and he does a little flashback to look at all the deaths that he's done, I can't stop thinking about this running, jumping chainsaw. hands down, you leave your comments in comments. It's got to be one of the best deaths that we've seen Chucky do. All in all, great season. I can't wait. It's got to get greenlit for season 3, and once it does, I can't wait for whenever they bring it back to us. I'm fully invested in this. I think you don't want to wear out your welcome, but I think a 3 to 4 season run of this series would be perfect. And I'm waiting to see Nika kind of get some type of revenge on all the limbs she's lost at the hands of Tiffany. What did you guys think about the season finale of Chucky season 2 called Chucky Actually? Or what did you think about the season as a whole? Would you leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below? If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. It's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts, we're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.